Firstly, thank you so much for the invite. It kind of feels a bit surreal being called an entrepreneur still. I'm kind of just doing what I love and hoping that it works into a business. So it is a little bit funny. And I often feel like a bit of a fraud. But basically, Compeat Nutrition is something that we have dreamt up over a couple of years. My background is in sports nutrition. I was a sports dietitian at the AIS in Canberra for 4 years, working in a variety of sports. But when we fell pregnant with our first baby, being in Canberra, very far away from our family, we decided to move closer to home, which ended up being Foster for us, which is where Dan, my husband, ended up finding a job. And being in Foster as an advanced sports dietitian, you can imagine that there wasn't necessarily the elite sporting hub that I'd been used to in Canberra. So basically that's kind of where our thought process started. Dan is very sorry he isn't able to make it. We had a really important meeting business-wise in Melbourne today, so he is running the fort there, and I'm running this one. So basically we are a husband and wife team. I am the accreditation side of things and the sports dietitian side of things, and he's very much into that business management now, which is really cool. We've had one of our biggest fortnights in terms of our leap into our business. Dan previously worked as a chartered professional engineer, and has only recently jumped into full-time work with Compeat. So it's been a really stressful, anxiety-driven, I'm probably going to cry at some stage today, couple of weeks, for that reason that it's, you know, financially we've always had that little bit of a safety net. So really interesting kind of going forward, and we're kind of hustling for our livelihoods really at the moment, which is kind of a really neat place to be, but also very stressful at the same time. So we've both kind of come from sport backgrounds, both triathletes and hockey. I am very much now just an active mum and kind of handling a whole lot of balls in the air at one time. And Dan is getting back into that professional triathlete world as our priorities shift back into that. I'm a mum of two, so we've got a 2.5-year-old and a 6-month-old at home, which you'll see where that comes in later. So basically from that AIS environment, I shifted to a space where elite professional athletes or even athletes with disposable income weren't available. So basically we were in a space where I was very well trained in an area, but didn't have the ability to practice in that area that I loved from the location that we'd moved to for work reasons for my husband. So we really wanted to create a product that allowed me to service a whole range of athletes from a different type of space that didn't matter about location. So that's kind of where we're coming from, because when we're looking at what kind of services I developed for professional athletes, it was very much around meal preparation, education, meal timing, and then also around that education side of things through talks, cooking workshops, and then also obviously that one-on-one connection with the athlete. So all of what I did with the elite, I also do with the general everyday athlete or active individual. So that hasn't changed. And so we knew that that model could be then translated to the outcomes that the everyday Australian really does want in terms of that everyday active individual space. So weight loss, maximising performance, and whether that performance be in the sporting arena, but also just in lifestyle in terms of energy levels, and then recovery in different areas, concentration, that all really reflects on what we achieve with our nutrition anyway. Improving recovery and basically just that performance adaptations as well. So it all kind of reflects back into that everyday individual. So with that, we had a real problem, because when we looked at where we could end up, and you'll see that I think in the next slide, basically when we looked at where we could end up, I was either going to have to kind of go to a GP clinic, go into a room and see clients just very much how everyone kind of did it one-on-one, and you're very much limited to the time that you had in a day, also referral focused, and it just wasn't the best way to see clients. Repeat referrals were awful. So that's kind of, we're very much, as dietitians, if you haven't come across our profession before, very much cemented in an industry that's face-to-face, and it's very traditional in that sense of not necessarily being shaken up before. The value of a dietitian is also really poorly known within the population. We have an image problem that goes far and wide. I have a big belief that that's coming from, you know, years down the line where the dietitian did have a very old school approach and quite judgmental approach, I believe. But there is a new generation of dietitians out there now that are shaking that up, which is nice, and we hope to be one of those. And then also consumer demand. So if you imagine our target market, they are generally working long hours in their jobs. They're high achievers in all areas, right? So they have higher paying jobs, or at least jobs that do take a lot of time. And then they're trying to train outside of those hours, or they've got family commitments as well. So getting to appointments was definitely going to be a massive barrier. So that ease of access, we knew we had to shift and change. And also integrating that information into day-to-day. Now, on that one-on-one approach, you're seeing someone for maybe 30 to 60 minutes, you're giving them maybe a piece of paper or a PDF of a program, and then you may see them again, or you may not, depending on the client and how good that relationship was and their motivation to see you again. So that really needed shifting. And also, a big change coming out of the AIS is that we had insider information of how sports were being funded. So what's called the winning edge model is basically shifting how sports used to get their funding. So sports used to get their funding through the AIS, and the AIS decided how that was divvied up. And then that changed while I was at the AIS. So sports got the funding and they decided how they divvied that up. Now what that meant is that sports necessarily didn't need to rely on the AIS hub in Canberra for servicing. They could really make their own hubs in whatever area suited them. And what that meant is that the sports was being very much decentralised. And we knew that going in is that if we were going to disrupt this market, we needed to create a program that actually suited that change in sport as well in the elite setting. Oh, I'm pointing to the wrong thing. Yeah, that's how I roll. So basically this is the market that we're looking at. More than 60% of the population exercise more than 3 times a week. So when we're looking at the population as a market, it is huge. And we had no doubt that we were not even touching the surface in terms of a profession in seeing those clients. Now we say less than 5% because that's what the only available data is that we had, but I reckon that's an exaggeration. I do believe that hardly anyone in that 60% has seen a sports dietitian in that space. Now, when we're all saying that dietitians can't get jobs, we have a very big issue with getting jobs and staying in jobs, particularly finding jobs that are full-time. We're seeing that we're not even touching that market. So we knew that going in that we had to spread who we were aiming for and kind of go towards there. Now, it's a big market in how much people spend, obviously. There's equipment, there's fees, there's gear, all those types of things, and people invest a lot. And there's a really good growth as well. So we knew going in that if we could target it right, we had a really good market to try and at least get a little bit of. So this is what we've created. Basically, our goal was to be an accredited professional. We are not interested in expanding this so that anyone could be a dietitian or losing that accreditation. We want an accredited professional in your pocket, and there's always going to be an accredited professional behind what you see on the dashboard. We want to keep that because a big part of what we want to do is not only help the individual client, but we also really want to help our profession as well. And if we can add value, then that's a goal achieved for us. So basically, there's different tiering as you'll see, and it's all integrated within your dashboard. So what we've created here is a website-based app to prove concept that we then hope to expand on. So it's accessible when and where you need it. A big part of the traditional servicing approach is that you see someone, you get information, and then it's kind of up to you, or you don't necessarily have that ongoing support if a question comes up or you need some more information or you forget your PDF that day or whatever. Like it's just, the way of servicing was very old school in that sense. And it's designed for you. So a big part is that we are always in the background designing basically for the individual. So we get all the information about that person, what their program is in terms of training, what they need, and what their food preferences are, and we're tailoring that and changing that as the athlete changes or as the active individual changes as well. So this is the flexible program. So basically, no matter what your training level is in terms of a background of how we practice, it's really important that we periodise nutrition in terms of how active you are per day. So if you know that you're sitting at a desk all day, your needs are completely different to if you were to be very active that day, or you know that you had a hard session before you were to sit at a desk all day. So we've created a system that actually allows you to toggle between that depending on what your day is going to bring, whether that be a low training day or a high training day. And within that, I change what nutrients they're getting and also start to coach them in being able to do that themselves as well. Now, everything's integrated. So basically within the centre, we knew that our programs were great, we were getting really good results, and the traction was excellent in terms of the clients. But we also knew that taking away that one-on-one was reducing the capacity of us to actually educate the client in a way that was sustainable and hopefully graduating them through a change that was long term. So we've created a knowledge hub. So our knowledge hub is basically all of our recipes, and within those are a lot of details according to how you change that for a different diet type, how you change that depending on your training day, and it adds that little bit of extra. And it also is a video hub. So basically my face throughout it all, basically educating the client in a way that's translated to them. It's not designed to educate a dietitian, it's not designed to educate a health professional, it's designed for the everyday athlete to learn and hopefully create change that's more sustainable outside of needing our programs. So this is where that comes in. We see our model not necessarily as a cycle or an in and out kind of system. We see it as this infinity symbol where you could really start wherever you felt most comfortable, and you can move between and shift between depending on the stage. So if we're looking at the athlete, for example, there are different times in their competitions where they might need some really specific sports. Say they're coming up to the Com Games, which is very, you know, some of our athletes at Com Games this week were on a very specific program coming in because they're like, I know that all I need to think about is my training and recovery. Just tell me what to eat and I'll eat it. And we were basically taking the thought out for them. Now, outside of their training or in the off season, they may move to the flex plan where they get a bit of a guide, but they put more of that into their own pocket and kind of take a little bit of that change and that responsibility. And the knowledge hub is really that sustainable model of, I still can touch base with you and I can still ask questions, but my need for you is much less. And so, you know, they could shift between those or stay in a model for as long as they like, depending on how comfortable they are. And of course, the event day is there, as that's a really big market for us in designing programs for marathons, triathlons, CrossFit, whatever the event may be. And they can be paired with any of these into a bundle. Oh. So current applications, this is where we're currently situated. We've got active individuals from marathon runners, triathletes, mums, you know, we've got a big range of active individuals basically. But within that, we've got elite athletes. So a big part of how we roll is, however I treat the elite athletes, they get exactly the same treatment as the active individuals and vice versa. So we use all the best practices for everyone, no matter what level they are. It's just how we adapt that information depending on their level of change and what level they are in terms of their nutrition quality. So we've got world champion cyclists on board, professional cycling teams, professional athletes, and para-triathletes are one of my favourites as well. So in terms of professional sporting teams, we've worked with Pro Continental cycling teams, the Newcastle Jets, and also Professional Footballers Australia is currently pending as a partnership as well. So gyms and health clubs are all big spaces that we're looking to go into as well. We've got the ability to educate a lot of clients in a capacity that is, you know, much more user-friendly and also applicable to the gym for affordability as well. So we've got some CrossFit gyms on board, and we've got big gyms pending as well. So that's kind of where we're at in terms of the space and breadth of our client base. So our traction to date, now we've launched the full MVP only from mid-March. So we're a very new business, and that's kind of why I'm a little bit overwhelmed presenting to you, because it's been a wild ride. But basically since then, we've got 52 active users, and within that we're gaining momentum in how much we get per month in our subscriptions. And within that is a really big mix of the Knowledge Hub, Flex and Specific. So we've kind of set it up so the Knowledge Hub is definitely where our main client base will live, and then Flex and then Specific. So we definitely expect that kind of pyramid structure in our subscription levels, mainly due to the cost and investment, and also how much is tailored. So we're graduates from the Slingshot Accelerator from December, which was based here, and where we connected with all other entrepreneurial businesses, which was really cool. And we're currently working to confirm those developments, as I mentioned in the previous slide. So we've got really world-class athletes, we've got ambassadors, all working really hard to share the love for us and basically have that word of mouth. It's such a key part of nutrition. Nutrition's very, very personal. So no matter how much we market, if we don't have that word of mouth and if we don't have that relationship and trust in the client, we won't basically have market. So that's a really key part, particularly because I'm often behind the computer screen. So a big part of our marketing is absolutely getting our face out there and growing that trust with the basically our market, which has been actually really fun. It's been overwhelming at times to be on live videos and have videos and whatnot. It's definitely out of my comfort zone, but it's been such a key part in growing that trust in our client base. And we've trialled the prototype in Newcastle Jets and also Oliver's Real Food Racing, which is a cycling team. So where do we want to go from here? Almost accidentally, we've created a product that could easily be translated into many more applications than just sports nutrition. So we started sports nutrition for the main reason that that was my bread and butter, that was what I knew, and that's where I wanted to end up. But through the development of this program, we've developed something that could easily be flipped into many different areas to help service more effectively and efficiently in the nutrition space. So public health and, you know, especially that rural, remote kind of servicing, corporate and also international. So in terms of the potential development partners, we're looking at professional dietitians actually being part of our partnerships. AIS, we're in talks with at the moment. Health New South Wales, obviously big gyms, and then PFA is almost there. So yeah, that's been a super fun thing that we've been working on as well. So this is us. We were very lucky to gain Ben on the advisory board. So he was part of the Slingshot team and one of basically our mentor. He approached us afterwards and asked us if we would like his support, and we absolutely jumped at that opportunity. He's been an amazing influence on us and our decisions, and helping guide us in the direction that we need to take from someone who's actually got experience in that, where we want to go basically. Obviously there's Dan and I. Jordan is our graphic design member, so he's the face behind all that imagery and logos, and who designed our website, and Seb is our master in basically making that happen, because we had a limited budget and we didn't know how we were going to achieve what we wanted to, and it's definitely become bigger than what we first went to them with, and they're like, hey guys, you're really pushing the boundaries, and we kind of knew that whatever we created to that minimal product, we were going to get to a point where we break it and we had to change, and we're nearly at that point of breaking our product in the way that we've got to move forward and develop an actual iOS app basically. The future positions obviously is like CTO, more servicing dietitians. We've got a dietitian coming on board in 3 weeks, which is super, super exciting to have some assistance in another sports dietitian being on board, and also marketing director. They're all like kind of where we want to end up. So this is our journey so far. Basically from 2015, I should put like baby, and little pauses along the way as I kind of suffer through and try and work at home and bring up a young family and start a young family as well. But basically the first phase started in 2015. We moved to a lot of experimentation, first models, kind of just let a really slow launch kind of happen to some of our products, just to get a lot of feedback and make sure it's what people wanted. And from that, we actually then were able to develop how we wanted to present our product and how we wanted to come. So there's been so many iterations of what we thought we were going to create and what we have created just through trial and error. And that's really the main reason why that journey has been so long for us. And also we didn't win lotto either. So it was kind of service, get enough money, reinvest, and then kind of go from there. So, you know, we've invested a lot of time. When you calculate the amount of money that would have been, it's quite scary. And then also invested pretty much everything into this. So basically where to from here is confirming that growth. We're very much in that marketing sales state now that we've finished our MVP, and that commercialization hopefully is definitely where we want to end up, you know, in future years. So when we're employing and when we're looking at the future, that's really our goal. And that is us. Cool. Thank you. Yeah.
How have you guys been funded?
All through us.
Wow.
Yeah, so we sold houses, we worked our butts off, and I haven't been paid for 2 years, so we were very much budget-wise, and then sold our investments in that way. We're in our first round of funding now, and that's definitely what's allowed Dan to quit his job That wasn't the original plan, but anyway, it's Chris' job. That's definitely allowed us to at least launch from there and have enough financial backing to allow him to transition. Yeah, but very much self-funded. We're in our first round now, so yeah. Yes?
So you talk through, my understanding at the moment is you're structuring a B2C model.
Yes.
Can you lead us through the decision to why we're going B2C and not B2B?
Yeah, it's we would love to have gone straight to B2B or have both at the same time, but the prototype that we've built is not secure enough to release it to other dietitians as yet to use. So that was a really big thing. When we were going through the Slingshot program last year, it was a really big push to go to B2B and B2C at the same time. But when we showed them how we work in the back end, it was a team decision to hold that back because it's almost, I guess, what they call secret sauce of how we're able to work efficiently enough to make the amount of income that we need to survive, basically. And in that industry, that's probably the limiting factor, is that efficiency in servicing and that basically being so limited by time. So that's the reason why we've held back. Once we build the app and we can protect that IP, that will be when we move. We really want to have a development partner who is focused on that B2B, and that's our next step, is to hopefully show and help so they can help us develop that B2B model with us in a way that's going to be really useful for other dietitians, but we're just not quite there yet. Yeah, we didn't want to launch until we had the reputation and the name to launch with. Yeah.
Do you think B2C or B2B has more potential?
Oh, it's a good question. I think B2B. Yeah, just because of scalability. Yeah, which will be fun.
So I guess is that what you're saying is you
Yeah.
need to demonstrate that you could actually deliver a service to one consumer and
Yes.
many of them,
Yeah.
and prove that model,
Yep.
and then make the B2B model.
Absolutely. Yeah. I just believe, and it was a team decision, that if we released B2B when early, it would not have been a good reflection on our product, because it's a very intensive and clunky system that we're running now, which is great when we know how to use it, but branching that out, it would have been a complete mess. Yeah. So when we launch B2B, it's going to be smick-as and very exciting. So yeah, we're perfectionists.
If you would split the business when you got to that, you'd have one you're focused on B2B and then have your own sort of free hit.
Yeah, I think because the advanced sports dietitian area and my name is valuable, they've almost wanted me to create the name as me, which is probably where we'll lie, is that we'll still hold Compeat as us in servicing, but still allow that, I guess, software to be used as an application with other dietitians, and whether that be within their own name and their own brand. And it's more of a software model than that kind of thing, yeah. Or license to use, yeah. Yes?
So when customers are using this, your program, how much data, or what sort of data are you collecting from that?
Yeah, so we've just integrated with Salesforce as of the last couple of weeks. We knew that was a really big thing that we were missing, but basically finance just limited how much we could spend on licenses in that area. So we're now collecting a lot more data, monitoring progress a lot more, and that linkage was also connected to knowing that we were about to grow with dietitian numbers, and managing clients was something that we were really limited with our current system. So that's allowed us to do that much better. So yeah, that's improving, and we'll continue to improve when we build that app side of things too. Yeah.
How do you imagine you're going to use that data that you collect?
I don't know, I've never really been asked that question. I guess that what we're collecting at the moment is showing client satisfaction and progress, and I think that kind of return on investment is so critical, that has not really been measured before in our profession. So that's definitely where our concentration is, in the data that we're collecting, and also obviously in that marketing space. That's going to be really handy to know where our clients are, what our client base is like, and then who we need to really target. Yeah.
So where's the funding round up to?
Oh, so we are almost finished the first funding round, and we are looking to I was just saying we probably need to open a second round of funding this year to reopen, just because of the timing. So our goal is to be cash flow positive through the funding, and that's really where we're at. And knowing how much we need to get there, it's around 250K to be cash flow positive by the time we want to be. And in that state, we're kind of, yeah, we're getting there. It looks promising, but yeah, it's just so slow and very time consuming and really intensive. When you've never done anything like this before, it can be really overwhelming, that's for sure. Yeah. But yeah, it's been fun and really nice to see people trust in your team and trust in your idea. Is really, like, I guess we work best, or I definitely work best by not wanting to let people down. And so, you know, it's kind of an extra bit of motivation when you get people on board who are willing to invest in you, and extra motivation to hustle, not just for yourselves, but for others. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
You were saying that there's not really, like, what your product sort of really disrupts the dietetics industry. So from what I know from doing selection, there's no one really competing with what you guys are doing.
No.
So with your pricing models, how did you sort of come up with that? Because you don't really have anything to base it off.
No, membership models of servicing are not something that dietitians do. We're definitely see you for an hour, this is our hourly rate, this is how much we need to charge. So when we were creating that model, we wanted to first up really make sure that we cut down the barriers to socioeconomic status to achieve, like, basically accessing services, because we have a target market that is all levels of in terms of finance, and that was one thing that we really wanted to base it off. We wanted to make sure that we were covering our hours, obviously, in creating products. Obviously, our high-end services take a lot of time to create, and that's really personal time for all of us to look at someone's needs, their preferences, their training programs, and design around that. We're definitely very much more efficient in that area because of what we've created, but it still takes a lot of time to create a service that is high-end, and we knew that we wanted to be high-end. We're not, you know, we're always going to be hiring people at the high end of their professions, and there's a real market for us. We believe in showing that accreditation side and the value in accreditation. Yeah.
So you're going digital, which means that you're prepared and ready to go global.
Yeah.
In terms of, I don't know much about, I know that there's athletes worldwide.
Yes.
But in terms of availability of food, quality of food,
Yeah.
dietary preferences, globally sort of stuff, is this inherently like scalable, or do you actually have to rethink every single
Yeah, so we have Athletes International now, and what we are doing is that basically it's a database that will continue to grow and develop based on the country that we're servicing to. Our newest member will be fluent in Italian, which is really neat, and we will probably have to set up sub-sites basically of dietitians fluent in countries, and also obviously in knowing what foods are available and when, and those types of things. So yeah, it's definitely our limitation. So our first role of, you know, going international will be in places with a similar food supply and similar food availability to Australia for that reason. Yeah, big job. That's probably what's taken the most, is just growing that database of food selection and data within that. Yeah, it's huge.
Have you looked into sorry,
Yeah, yeah. Hey.
like in terms of using machine learning and recommendation engines for, I guess, options for menus? So like,
Yeah.
I noticed you kind of had options for, say, breakfast. Or
Yeah.
looked into kind of the data side of.
Yeah, that's not my forte. Oh gosh, that would be amazing. What we've done is definitely improved the efficiency within that, and I can't reveal how we do it because it's kind of how we've managed to become so efficient. But that automation of selection would be something that would be amazing in that space. But yeah, as we talk to more tech people, because we are non-tech people going into a tech world, we are definitely growing our knowledge base, and how, you know, what's actually possible, I think, is what we've learnt, is that we kind of went in not knowing what we could create, and through talking to people and getting people specific and, you know, experts in their area, we've actually learnt what's possible, and that's been really cool. Yeah, that would be amazing. Yeah.
Do you like personalize the caloric intake and all of those different things for like particular actual human being? Is that possible at this stage where you are like
Yes.
everyone can put their height, their body weight, or
yeah.
like how old they are and what are their kind of goals or what
Yeah.
they want to achieve in, let's say, which time period. Do you also have like the different people with like, you know, the intolerance for different
Yes.
things? Do you also
Yeah, so we are very much about servicing the person. So obviously we do look at energy intake and are guided by their goals in terms of body composition and those types of things, but we're also guided about history, personal preferences, food intolerance, you know, so making sure that our recipe database can be FODMAP friendly, gluten-free, lactose friendly. So all of our recipes have that ability to basically shift depending on what kind of needs that person has. So it's very much not automated in that way of plug in your details and we'll send you a PDF of your meal plan. So that's definitely what we didn't want to do. So and we knew that we couldn't. That's a flooded market, right? So and it wasn't going to improve the job availabilities of dietitians, and it wasn't going to improve your, you know, image. So we're very much about the individual and servicing that at a really high level to allow them to create change and hopefully not need a meal plan forever, and hopefully, you know, shift off that and graduate through our programs to a point where they're really confident and happy around food and have a really good relationship with food. That's the most important thing to us.
So do you get like
No, that's
regular feedback from your clients?
Yes. So actually what I didn't show is we've got the main way that we communicate with our clients is through a chat function integrated within the dashboard. So I talk to them at least, you know, it depends on what system, like what platform they're on. For the specific, obviously we are very well entrenched into their day-to-day intakes and needs and questions, and they are excellent at asking questions and shooting us emails. So basically over the day I can be in real time talking to them, or if they've emailed or messaged over the night, then I can get back to them. So for example, I guess the big thing for us is we wanted to be flexible and able to be agile enough to change. So an athlete's intake needs change all the time. So they may play a game of rugby and become injured in that game, and all of a sudden what we've planned for them and programmed for their needs next week will change, and the supplements that they need will change, or the energy intake that they need will change to optimize their recovery from that injury. So now we are able to not just wait until the next available appointment, or not just wait until, you know, they have time to see a dietitian, because usually we're last to kind of go through after they've seen physio scans, that kind of thing. We're able to go through, okay, straight away, let's optimize, and we can improve return to play anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks from adequate nutrition. So our return on investment for a player asset is very high if done right. So yeah, that's you know, that agility is really important too in that sports scene. Yeah.
So if it's a manual process, what are you guys actually saving, like apart from the face-to-face time, if you
Yeah.
used to do say an hour face-to-face, and then that's kind of,
Yeah.
like how much time do you guys actually put into each user?
Yeah, so it varies a lot. Some users are very time intensive, and that's their personalities and their need for higher education, and they just naturally have more questions and need more answers, and that's okay. And then we've got others that are very independent and are pretty happy to go on their way, and we'll just touch base now and again depending. And so it very much varies. Obviously we've set it up so the specific has a lot more time, but we've still reduced that client interaction through just efficiencies in creating that database and also talking to the client, compared to seeing them say an hour 1 week and not really expecting them to come again for at least 2 to 4 weeks if they do actually come back. So it's more of a weekly time investment of at least half hour per client, and obviously much less for the Knowledge Hub guys that are kind of just ticking away and asking questions as they need that are very general. So it's a very much a different way of seeing it. The big issue with that, see someone for an hour in the sports nutrition sense, is when you see someone, say a sports dietitian, and want, say, a race day program or something like that, you see them for an hour and you get all their information, but then you've got to go back while they're not there and create that event plan and then get it to them. So when you're charging them, they kind of go, gosh, why is it so expensive? Well, you're like, well, yeah, this is going to take me another 3 hours by the time you leave here. You really got to pay for 3 to 4 hours rather than just that hour you're seeing me. And that's a real battle in our profession of making that time efficiency in that time. So we're kind of gathering information in the background now of our clients while it's in their time, and then utilising that to create a program that fits them best in our time. So it's really much more efficient in that way. You know, there's definitely limitations, you know, not taking out that one-on-one approach is something that I hated at the start. I was like, gosh, it's such a critical part of how we roll and what I enjoy doing, and I realised that a lot of that would have to be changed, and I was going to lose that interaction. So that was a really hard thing to take, but so that made it a really big thing that we wanted to create a system that didn't remove that one-on-one and didn't remove that need for someone to interact with us. It was just a different type of interaction.
So you got a phone with them?
Yeah, so depending what they want, so we can do Skype or any of those types of things if they wanted. Some want it, some don't. We can do messaging, Facebook messaging, like it's just whatever the client feels most comfortable communicating with. We're very flexible in that regard, but we do streamline most conversations through our chat function for that reason. And as soon as you're seeing someone on that Skype consult or on that phone call, it's not something we go, everyone gets access to. It's if you need it, we are there in that kind of sense to support, in the sense that you need it. But because of the time intensiveness of that, we wouldn't necessarily be able to scale and be as efficient as we are now in the current way of servicing. Yeah.
Sorry.
Sound guys, honestly.
So in terms of the whole platform seems to be based on this search for efficiency.
Yeah, well that was definitely the originator. Yeah, my husband was like, what are you doing and why?
So one of the ways that I've been looking at efficiency is by trying to work out people's similar needs and then grouping them together and having a group session rather than a one-on-one session.
Yeah.
Like 99% of the effectiveness of one-on-one with the efficiency of group.
Yeah.
If you looked at that, does your approach allow that to be an approach?
Yeah, in the team setting, it's definitely something that we're looking into and changing to adapt to that. And how we deliver that, in a sense, is still in development. But it's also something that nutrition is so individual in the way that people want that individual response. I've found the traction from doing live feeds through Facebook and Q&As through that group sense has been better than I ever anticipated, and it's probably for that reason that people do have similar questions and similar needs, and that need to service is so big. So it's interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
Start to be able to use your database and say, okay, well these people are all triathletes.
Yes.
Use that triathlete program. These people are all basketball. Use that basketball program.
Yeah, to an extent. Yeah.
Like in
Yeah.
terms of being able to corral them in a way that makes life more efficient for you, but also
Yeah.
might be able to play on some sort of, a lot of education is social, and
Yes.
so you might be able to create social situations
Yes.
where people in the same context
Yeah.
can talk to each other and create.
Yeah, so that's exactly what we're doing with our community through Facebook as our means to do that. So we're hoping, that education side of things happens in a group sense. Obviously not a money maker for us, but that community is so important in people's needs, basically, and that social interaction. So finding other triathlon runners is such a key part in that sporting part as well. So yeah, absolutely, that's really cool to feedback on. Yeah.
And you're talking about nutrition, but you're very cognizant that's a component of a much larger problem for the athlete, which
Yes.
includes lifestyle training, all these other things. Have you thought about trying to apply your same model to those other things? So
Yeah.
you have an online coaching model as well as a
Yep. Yeah, so we've approached other professions, particularly in that S&C space or ex-phys space in particular, because they are also very limited with their time and they're very much unable to expand because of their time limitations. So they're all very much a part of that. Also API integration through our app of the different, say, training programs and things like that to plug in, player athlete management systems as well, to be able to feed back on and actually add value to the player management systems. All those types of things are really big for us, and all things hopefully that we can achieve in the future. Yeah, we are very much just one cog in the asset of an athlete, for sure.
Thank you so much, Alicia,
Thank you.
for your insights.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.